Welcome to Female Fluence. We are a place of women empowering women. This is a safe environment where females are not judged nor afraid to flourish. My goal is to help you live an energized life of balance, whether as a mom, a wife, or in your profession. It is time to have self-worth and self-compassion. Live in the present moment and surround yourself with only healthy connections. So join me, Mashour, a woman empowerment life coach, an educator, and a mother of three, to help take you on a journey of true identity and inspiration. Throughout my life, I've been battling to find a way to live a life of balance. My perfectionism archetype always lurks in the shadows, casting a looming presence that often overwhelms and exhausts me. As a parent to three children who require my constant time and attention, I prioritize creating homemade meals and ensuring family dinners are essential to our household routine. Amidst the demands of day-to-day life, there's always an abundance of tasks to accomplish in a single day. In addition, I place great importance on maintaining being healthy and in shape, so exercising is non-negotiable. Among these responsibilities, I carve out time for my husband, family, and friends. Yet this unquenchable thirst remains within me, a desire for a fulfilling career transcending the role of mother, wife, or daughter. Can one truly find enough hours in a day to balance it all? Unfortunately, sleep is often sacrificed for me, and the goals I set for myself tend to plummet to the depths of my ever-growing to-do list. I can't seem to make myself a priority. Then in 2021, I attended a captivating speaking engagement that alternated my perspective. The speaker took center stage and shared her extraordinary journey. Her book, Mommy Tracked, eliminated her definition of success, one achieved through introspection and tapping into her inner core during various phases of her life. Her words resonated so deeply with me that tears welled in my eyes. It reminded me of my journey in 2019, where I had finally summoned the courage to forge a new path, embarking on a new journey of self-discovery. But just as I began to realize my dreams, the world was struck by the devastating blow of COVID-19 pandemic. And once again, my aspirations plummeted to the bottom of my list. At the end of her presentation, I approached her, bought her book, and asked her to sign it. I shared fragments of my own aspirations, and at that moment, I felt that she truly saw me. She understood me. With unwavering sincerity, she urged me to pursue what energized and fulfilled me and to cease surrendering to defeat. Now here we are with my long overdue ascent to the top of my own priority list, ready to achieve my dreams and graced by the presence of that same remarkable speaker. Dr. Sohee Jun is our guest today, a luminary in leadership coaching, a captivating keynote speaker, Amazon bestselling author, an expert in leadership development. She holds a PhD and master's in organizational psychology and multiple leadership certifications after dedicating over 20 years to the corporate world. And she's now working with Fortune 500 companies, helping them emerge their leaders and executives to unleash their forgotten power. Today, she imparts her wisdom, teaching us how to take risks and redefine success on our own terms. Dr. Jun has finally discovered her integrated life through introspection, pivotal experiences, and personal growth. She challenges us to break free from the shackles of the elusive, balanced life and instead redefine balance based on the unique seasons and phases of our own Dr. Jun, we are so happy to have you here today on my show.
Pearl, wow. Thank you for the walk down memory lane of where you and I met. I'm so thrilled that a year or two later, here you are. And I knew that you could do this.
Thank you. I just remember listening to you and saying, oh my gosh, she's saying everything that I feel, and I need to take that step. I just need to feel that I need to believe in myself that I can do this. So your timing and your presentation was perfect.
That's always my hope, that my lived experience resonates with people, and it certainly did with you. So I'm glad to be here.
It did. It definitely did. It definitely did. So, Dr. Jun, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself And also tell us about your journey and what inspired you to write the book called Mommy Tracked.
Yes, that's a big question. I'll start here, which is to
Okay.
say that I am a testament to the work that I do with my clients, which is around mindset. And why I talk about that and why I lead with that is that the mindset work is what really allows us to step into our power and to advocate for ourselves and to make ourselves a priority and to take leaps and make bets that we want to in our life that really is meaningful to us. And as I shared with you that day when I spoke back in, must have been 2020 now, my story is one in which I took a lot of risks that felt big at the time. And a side note, I take bigger and bigger risks because they're worth it to me. But I am a mom of three, and they are my greatest work in progress and contribution to this world. I have a 13-year-old, 11-year-old, and 8-year-old. And I have the privilege of working with amazing clients and professionals and people like you who want to go from good to great, who want to find authentic success, who want to step into leadership in their most authentic way. And I think that there's a lot of people that are ready and up for that journey of really amplifying their own power and being unapologetic about their goals. So that's what I'm in service of. And the book was something that I was so passionate about. So the book is Mommy Tracked: How to Find Authentic Risks and Finding Success on Your Own Terms, because my lived experience was one in which early in my career, I was living by the shoulds, being an immigrant child to the US at the age of 6. I was told early on, very directly and not directly, of what success looks like. And it was very much what I call like a traditional boxed in version of success, right? Do all of the work, do it humbly, do it well, get great grades, go above and beyond, be a good girl, achieve traditional levels of success, which meant go to college, get your highest degree possible. And at that time, I was like, okay, that to me means being a medical doctor, right? I'm of Asian descent, and
Right.
that was like coveted in my family. And it was in that time when I took my first risk after really tuning into my inner voice saying that isn't my path. It isn't meant for me. And you have to understand, Pearl, I think you might get this on some level. Speaking that truth and actually taking action on that was so frightening at the age of like 19, 20 in college, trying to find my path. And speaking that to my parents who worked so many odd jobs, had 2 or 3 jobs at one time to ensure that we had
Right.
levels of traditional success. So I had to dig deep. I was scared. I, questioned myself a lot. And that was the first of many risks to come in which I had to define what success looked like for me. And so that book is really just an inspiration for others, women in particular, who put aside their dreams, who put themselves really last on the list, and who think that living their dreams is selfish, to understand and rewire the mindset around that, because when we step into our dreams is when we really inspire others to do the same.
I mean, you say that perfectly well. And I can really relate with you because I was an immigrant too, and coming from a Persian family, they have the same values. It's all about being successful, and you have to be a doctor. There's a certain route you have to take. And I knew from the beginning, I always wanted to do, I mean, originally I'm a teacher. And so I knew from the beginning, whether I was teaching children or women, that was my intention in life. That was my purpose. I could just feel it. At the same time, my parents, they pushed me. No, you have to go into economics, the stock market. And I did that. I did the same thing, and I got a job, and I was working as a project manager in the corporate world. And I really hated it. It was like one of those things that I just said, okay, I did it. I can check it off my list. But realistically, I really didn't feel happy or fulfilled inside. And when I had enough courage to say, I'm quitting, I'm going back to school to get my credentials, I want to do different things in my life, it was a risk, and I was scared. But I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think for me, it's one, you said so many important things that are really the core of living your own truth, which is it's courageous, it's scary, And I'll add this, it's a yes and. Yes, it's scary and it's, an act that feels very defiant. And I think what helps me flip that is to know that people have good intentions. Our parents, both yours and mine, and the people around my circle really certainly had good intentions. No
Exactly.
one's trying to derail me. And knowing that, yes, those are good intentions. And I can also own my power and make decisions that are of my best interest. It's my full belief as a coach and just as a person on this earth that we know our truths, that when we tap into what gives us energy and when we get quiet and listen to what is coming up for us and what I call like our inner voice, those are the things that we need to pay attention to. And that takes courage. And to me, that's what you're saying is like, it took that for you to step into your understanding of what lit you up in the path that you wanted.
Exactly. No, that's very true. So we have a lot in common.
We did. I know.
So
That's what I was
we
like,
do.
oh, yes. Do you remember that day? I was like, I will be on your podcast. Let's go.
Yes, you did. And I didn't at that moment, I never thought it would happen, but here we are today. So dreams come true.
Yes.
So, okay. So what is the mommy balance myth? Why do you not like the term living a balanced life? Because initially I've always said, oh, my goal is to live this balanced life. But when I read your book, I was like, oh, there's a whole different approach to living a balanced life. And that I thought was really interesting.
Yes. So this is something I say from the mountaintops to everyone, especially women that will listen, because we're the ones that are really ingrained in that story of achieving balance. And I say this all the time. I'm so allergic to that word balance because coming with that term balance is all of this stuff around we have to do it all. And that means if you're a parent, being a good parent, being a good daughter, being a good friend, being a good worker, being a good, all the things all at once. And anybody who tries to do that will burn out and will have levels of dissatisfaction because it takes you away from what you really want to prioritize. Now, what I say is rather than looking to balance everything, because if you think about balancing, it's that for me, a picture comes up of me like I have all my hands and even my feet in the air, and I'm trying to put it all up there all at the same time.
Juggling, yeah.
Well, that's what balance means to me. And that is a Herculean effort. And what happens at the end, it all comes crashing down. To the human body, what I know in all the female, high achieving females that I coach is that they've had that moment of it coming crashing down. For them to realize this treadmill of achieving balance is not achievable. There is no end goal. It keeps moving because you're going to add one thing, more thing, without taking anything off, right? I mean, I think a lot of women know this. It's like we add and
we don't take it off.
Yes. And I've certainly, I live this work and I coach and I've been there at times too. Now, less and less extreme, and it gets easier to integrate. And so that's a concept I reframe it to. It's like integrate, not balance, because balance means we're going to burn out at some point. And rather than that, let's integrate based on our values. And why this is so important is that when we understand what our values are, then that informs our priorities. So, for example, my values might be health and wellness, travel, and family. And I always advocate for just 2 or 3. Everything else is like nice to haves. Get really anchored on those crisp values. And then determine what the priorities are from the values, which might look like, you know what? That means I have to absolutely take quarterly breaks. That might mean a long weekend, or it might mean intentional time, however you build that into your schedule.
Right.
And that starts to inform the decisions you make. Because everything else then becomes just a should. We should do this. We have to, we need to, rather than living from a place of honoring our values and priorities.
There's a lot of parts of your book that I like, but there's a few parts that I wanted to share with everyone.
Yes.
It's you said true balance is possible if you ditch your idea of perfectionism and understand to redefine what balance means to you during different seasons and phases of your life. A better word is integration. You can have it all, but not at once. Integration means you're actively working to make space for what's important to you based on your values and priorities, just like you said. And I really, really like that because we don't really think about like the whole fact of each season we need to step back and take a look and see what's really important to us, because different phases of our life, there's different things that need our attention. And so if we really try to do everything at once, I mean, it just makes such a great amount of sense. And it put it in a better perspective for me. And the other thing you had in your book was the fulfillment scale. And I feel like we do. And you actually say we need to check in and, check in on our fulfillment and check on yourself and see how you're acting spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally. How are you fulfilled in those categories? Because they will change, obviously, with different phases of your life, different age that you're in. And so if you continually to do that, then you know that you are actually being in an alignment and you are still being fulfilled and not getting burnt out. So I thought that was really great. I wanted to point that out.
Well, you picked a really good one to hone in on, because I know that so many of us walk around with this notion and guilt and judgment if like we're at our energy or our priorities or our values even, or the things that interest us change. And the fact of life is that if we can go more easily into different transitions, we'll be so much easier on ourselves and give ourselves permission to do these things.
Exactly.
Give ourselves permission to honor changes and that it's okay. I think from very early on, we are told that one question: what are you going to be when you grow up? And that really implies there's only one thing you can be, and it's a static endpoint of which you're going to achieve it and work your entire life to achieve. That narrative already is so deeply ingrained in us as we grow up. And it's really looking at that and getting curious and saying, okay, well, what if shifting is possible? What if we honor that at this early career in my life, I want to hustle, I want to chase and do the things, which is fine. And then as you go into different milestones and have achieved different things, we have to honor that we're in different phases of our lives and then let go of trying to do it all at once, all the time. That's really a very hard place to be in. It's a very aggressive mindset to have. And I think, one, get curious about what your beliefs are around that. And then how can you ease more into allowing transitions to happen and giving yourself permission?
I love that. I really, really do. I feel like get so much pressure off of yourself at the moment you allow yourself that. Because I think even like during the holiday season, it's like I'm still trying to do everything that I normally do instead of saying, okay, if we all took the time, or you have your first child and say, okay, I can't, the house might not be as clean as it used to be, or I might have to order out, or whatever it may be, to kind of allow yourself to go through those phases. That's a really good point. With you leaving the corporate world, obviously you have a lot more freedom, but do you feel like was there any sacrifices that you had to make in order to make that happen for yourself?
Oh, absolutely. And it's one that I still, even to this day, really think about in terms of risks and losses in order to get what you want in this season. So this is 6 years into having my firm and living this amazing life that I get to work with clients that I want to and do the projects that light me up. So those are all the perks and the risk of why I did this, knowing that I'll have more time with my kids and all the benefits of that. Now, the downside is that, Pearl, I don't get to have collaborative, organic moments with my team and, have really good ideating sessions, or a partner that I can say, hey, let's work on this project together that's on my team permanently. And so that's a big loss that I had to really think about. Is that one that is going to be something that I can supplement on this journey? If it is a big loss and I've identified it as one for me in this journey, how can I get it in other places? And will that be fulfilling enough? It's a really good question that you ask, because anytime you take a risk, there will be some things you have to let go of and some losses, which equates to grief, right? There's some grief in this, and a letting go of what you thought it would be. And for me, it's like knowing, okay, I'm not going to have at the ready colleague that I can just say, hey, let's chit chat. All those things that give me energy and give me life at times when things don't feel so full and feel so like as though I'm making progress forward. Those things that colleagues can give you, right? So knowing that, I actively try to build in ways like getting coffee and having mentors and getting community in other ways that will fill that gap.
To
So
get that connection. Right.
yes, yes. I think for people it's knowing, okay, if you're going to take that risk, what are the downsides and how will you support yourself through that?
That's good. And once you see, again, just like you're doing a fulfillment skill, once you see what's more important to you, then you can figure out how to manage it. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think the fulfillment scale is obviously I developed it. I just think it's such a practical every quarter, every month tool to really check in with yourself, especially for people that don't know, they have this sense that something's missing, something's like flat. If when they look at the scale, there's all these different parameters to rate your level of fulfillment against spiritual, community, physical. And then that allows you to assess, all right, you know what? I actually haven't, spirituality is very important to me. It's been such a lack in my life for the past year. Let me figure out how I can add that into my life and then maybe deprioritize something else, right? So it's that. And I love the fulfillment scale, and it's definitely in the book and very accessible. Yeah.
very easy to use. Yes, yes. Okay. So there was another part that I really liked, resonated with you in your book. It said, doing it all amplified my perfectionism tendencies. What you thought was a success was feeding your ego. So you wanted to do more, do better, and keep up with the role you had created for yourself. People were looking up to you and you couldn't let them down. It's like you get confidence from the reinforcement of your perfectionism tendencies. And I really resonated with that because I too am a perfectionist and I'm trying to work on this. And I just feel like when you act a certain way and it's like yes, you get more confident and people are looking up to you. But the moment you say, it becomes like a responsibility that you have to have this role of being this perfect person, doing everything, saying yes to everything. And the moment you say, I'm tired, or I can't do this, or you say no, it just shocks everyone around you in your circle. What I liked how you said is that you need to kind of check in again with yourself to see it now when you're doing things, when you're accepting a project, doing a task. Are you doing it because of the perfectionism that's within you? Or now I try to kind of look and see, am I in alignment? Am I doing this because I want to do it? Or is it because this role that I've created for myself where everyone thinks I'm perfect, so I need to fulfill that role? I think that's something that a lot of females struggle with because they are working in that perfectionism and maybe they want to give that role up, but it's a juggle trying to get out of that role. So that was another section that I was like, oh my goodness, I can so relate to this because it's a struggle for me all the time.
It is for 99% of women in particular. And Pearl, I would love to, I know this is a podcast where you're asking me questions, but I want to know like how are you on that journey of undoing perfectionism? Because that's the number one work for most highly successful women. They're still wrapped around in it, right? Part of that allows us to achieve a lot.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that is it's so tricky. This perfectionism bind is so sneaky and so tricky. So I'm just curious for you, like, how do you how do you manage it? I guess is the question.
I mean, it's a work in progress, of course, but I'm really testing myself and just saying, this is all I can do. I mean, especially with 3 kids, a house, everything. And I just constantly have to say, okay, at the end of the day, now what I'm trying to do is actually make a list of things that I have achieved and what I did that was good versus before I would just panic and say, oh my gosh, I had 30 things on my list and I only achieved 2 things. So I'm kind of trying to reverse everything and really having self-compassion for myself. And I think that's really, really helped where I kind of say, okay, you did these things, you did it well. Tomorrow is a new day. It's okay. And if you make a mistake, it's okay. We can do it again. So it's just work in progress. It's hard. It's not easy, but I'm working on it. And I feel like I've improved a lot. I mean, just actually going through all this woman empowerment coaching, it's helped me feel more empowered to be able to actually handle this as well.
Yeah, I love that you shared that because that's exactly what is the mindset work. It's noticing when it's coming up. And then 2, what's another more supportive way of reframing that narrative? Because we walk around all day with stories in our heads. And oftentimes the story is not very helpful. It's judgmental, critical, it's harsh, it's overwhelming. And thank you for sharing that, because that's the work I do myself. And I talk about with the women and the people that I coach, the leaders, around become aware of your narrative and how can you undo some of that conditioning. I have an example just this weekend of, of that mindset that I was wrapped around, like trying to do it all. And yes, I admit readily, I still grapple with this. And in doing the mindset work, it gets easier and easier. I don't believe in ever eradicating something, right? But it's just
Right.
easier. So I like you, Pearl, I have 3 kids. And I think I shared that up front at my talk 2 years ago. I have 3 kids, and this might be for you too, but this is the end of their school year, right? This week. It's winding down. And so with that comes end of school year parties, end of school year gifts, coordinating all of these things. And there's a field trip like tomorrow that I signed up to chaperone for. I'm not really sure why.
Of course you did.
Of course I did, because he's my teen and he's not going to want to be around me. Then I have a keynote that I'm speaking at another country, and I'm flying out on Sunday. So needless to say, Pearl,
That's a lot. That's
it's
a
a
lot.
lot. So Sunday night, I had a moment of massive overwhelm, because in my head, I was like, how do I do it all perfectly? How do I be there and accomplish all of it that I signed up to do? Because I want to make good on the things that I signed up for and
Yep.
do it well, right? That's the perfectionism voice. Do
That's
it,
what it
do it,
is.
do it well. And I did that self-compassion work, which is all right. There is a lot happening this week. And what's more supportive is let me take it day by day. And here's another one that I'll add that I didn't really speak about intentionally, but how can we have an attitude of joy, fun, and ease versus doing it right? And when you embody a different energy and mindset around it, it becomes less about perfection and more about let's have fun through this.
Exactly. The other thing that has really helped me is the whole mindfulness journey. And just checking in with myself and thinking, instead of saying, okay, I need to do this, check it off my list because it needs to be done. And what do I have next? It's like, okay, I'm here. I need to be present. I need to enjoy this moment with my child or whatever. I'm going for a walk. I need to enjoy it instead of just checking it off and just rushing from one activity to another. So that I think has really, really shifted my gears, where the moment I catch myself going into that mode of, okay, oh, I have this and that next, it's like, no, I'm here right now. I'm having coffee with a friend or I'm talking to you. I need to be present. I need to really enjoy this experience.
I mean, geez, that I think is so fundamental, because we miss everything when we're in checkoff mode.
Yep.
I know I used to live by checkoff lists. I don't do that anymore, especially as it relates to my personal life, because I don't want to be like in the mode of checking it off as though I'm done with the task, because people are not tasks. To me, it's like people are that
I
is
mean, there's so many people like that though out there. Like I will literally be seeing people and it's like you're talking to them and they're checking messages or sending a text or answering call and okay, I have to go to the next event. And I'm just like, well, why did we even meet? Like, I don't understand what happened.
yeah,
Right.
that is the state of the world that we're in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that it might get worse with the technology that's
Yes.
out there and growing fast and rapidly.
I think it will get worse. And I'm just afraid more than anything is for the next generation, our children and their children. That's the biggest problem.
I mean, Pearl, we can have a whole nother episode on that with our,
Yes, for sure.
yeah, because I am dealing with it minute by minute, and I know you are too. It is the big question for the parents of today's world of how do we manage that? Now, that aside, I think that it is, in that example, giving myself compassion and grace. And another thing that was helpful for me was having a sounding board with another person who was able to tell me, look, you are a good mom or parent despite doing all of those things. So ease up on yourself. And so I
Yes,
have found that sounding board super helpful for me, even at this stage of my life. It's somebody that you trust and that is unbiased towards who you are and can say, it's enough.
exactly. That's great. Do you think as I know you have pretty much everything going on for you, but would you say as women, can we really do it all? Is there such a thing?
Yes, Pearl. Yes, you can, just not all at once.
Not all at once. So that's the key thing to keep reminding ourselves. Right?
Correct. Yes, be ambitious. Yes, have dreams. Yes, want to do it and ease up on doing it all at the same time. That's not satisfying or maintainable.
Yes, exactly. And I know self-care is another big, huge topic. But how can we convince women when we've been kind of trained to be caregivers and always take care of other people that we need to make self-care a priority for us, ourselves?
Yeah. I went on that journey too. Like early on, even up until my 40s, I was like, I can't do this. That's selfish. Take time away from my kids. No. And then when I started to really play with it and take a little bit more risk in prioritizing me on that agenda to do,
Right.
I realized and started to see for myself that I can give more to others. The more I had energy and mindfulness, the more I was present for you, my kids, my work, my clients. And it was really just noticing that I started to rewrite the narrative about, look, this isn't about selfishness. This is about, I want to give a lot, and taking care of me allows me to do that. So advocate for anyone to start retelling themselves from a place of shame and guilt to a place of, look, this is important to me and I want to give to my family, my friends, my work, and giving to myself first allows me to do that. So when we can own that is when it becomes easier.
Great. I mean, I have noticed when I actually do take that time and I recharge myself, I'm a complete new person. I have a lot more patience with my children, with my teenagers. I just feel so much more energized. So I totally agree with you because when we're just kind of working with zero fuel, it doesn't get to a good place. And then you lose your temper, you're tired, you're sleepy, and you're not really in alignment with the kind of mother or wife or whoever that you need to be. So I really agree with you.
Yeah, and the other thing too, somebody said this in a funny way, but I absolutely believe that because the question was like, how do you do it or something? And she said, like, staying hydrated part is kind of like the joke, but stay hydrated and boundaries. And I really do think that we have given boundaries a bad rap, and the boundaries is related to self-care because look, I'm not going to stay up past 10:30 or 11. Like I need sleep because it allows me to then be very conscientious and give back in the way that I want to the next day, knowing that I have a full schedule. I need to honor myself in my sleep, and that means drawing some boundaries if people want to stay out late or what have you. So boundaries is very tied to self-care.
Right. No, that's very, very true. This has been amazing. I mean, we have learned so much from you today. Most importantly, we can do it all, but not at once. We have to look at the season that we are in our life. We need to look at our inner self for answers. Whatever we do, we will not ask others because we don't want to give up our power. We need to listen to ourselves because we have to learn to trust ourselves. Our goal is to be in alignment with what matters to us by identifying our values and priorities. Ladies, listen to those inner signals and act on them. All of these tips will help us show up authentically in our life and make choices that are true to ourselves. Last but not least, it's okay to take risks. As you can see, Dr. Jun has done it, and she has done a great job. And you need to get curious, evolve, and grow by taking these risks. Dr. Jun, you are an amazing person. You are doing incredible work that inspires so many of us. Thank you so much for being on my show today. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
Pearl, I would say thank you for having this outlet in which you are inspiring others to take more risks as well. And you're a living testament to that. So I'm honored to be here and live in yes, it's scary, and keep doing it.
I love it. Thank you so much. Now, if other people want to follow your incredible work and journey, how can they find you?
Yes, my website, www.soheejunphd.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn and Instagram, so they can find me there. It's, I'm sure you'll put it on the show notes as well.
I will. I will link all the show notes to this. Thank you so much. It was an honor to have you here today. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today to Female Fluence. Together, we can influence and motivate other mind-like females. Your job is to feel alive, be in control, and always be true to your own self. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can continue feeling inspired. All the links and notes from this episode will be posted on my website, femalefluence.com. Don't forget to also follow me at femalefluence on both Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, if you are in need of a woman empowerment life coach to help you identify the barriers that keep you from living the life you seek, please send an email to info@femalefluence.org. Remember, my friends, don't just exist, but live your life to the fullest. I'm your host, Mashour. Until we talk next time.